Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this not so sunny Wednesday afternoon. My name's Chris, and thank you for registering for today. Let's talk about retirement and seeing if you're on track. So, I really believe the definition of retirement is not accurate, and what people believe is almost mythical. Early retirement isn't necessarily a thing. Like, you can retire doing what you want, when you want, and at whatever age. And that's why my definition of retirement is that it is a financial status, not an age. There are people that can retire at 40 or 50 or 60 or sometimes never. And that's because it's financially based, not age based. That being said, at certain age points, you are allowed access to certain pots of money to help your retirement, but that doesn't mean your retirement has to start at that point. For the well prepared, for the savers, those with a clear plan, retirement can happen at any age. Oops. Now, what we hear in meetings, particularly in first meetings with people that just want to have a chat, is that they're scared and confused about what they have. They don't know what it means and what it can do for them in their retirement, or even how to start taking money out of pensions. And that's because there have been so many changes in pension legislation that one pension this way might be the right answer, and the second pension going the same route might be totally different and could actually be harmful for their future plans. In some cases, the decision you make in the way you access your pension can restrict you and potentially penalise you for future actions forever. So I get where the confusion comes from, and it doesn't help in terms of supporting clarity or confidence in helping somebody retire. Lots of people have a collection of pensions throughout their working life. They join a company, they leave a company, and that pension stays there. They then move on to a third or fourth or fifth job, and they've just got a collection of these pensions. And if we're speaking with a husband and wife who perhaps share their finances, that can end up being a lot of pensions to delve into, find out what they can do, how much they're worth, and what it can mean for their retirement. So there's often a lot of confusion. There's never a lack of clarity, and it's just a little bit of a stressful time for somebody. It's important that people retire once and retire once properly, because you can't necessarily go back to a working life afterwards. So there's fear, there's anxiety, and there's lots of confusion around a pension. That's what I hear in a lot of my first meetings with clients. And then in those same first meetings, I also hear that people will say, well, I don't like investing. The stock market scares me, and I don't want to keep the money invested for a long time. I just want to keep it all in safe and have a set return. Or some people say, well, actually, I would need to go for these magic returns or something really, really high, and say, well, and then I go back and I say, well, why? And then they say, because I want my money to grow. But there's no purpose attached to it. They don't know what they're retiring to, why they're thinking about retiring early, or actually, if they're just chasing performance, they're then subject to the market, the stock market, and perhaps they're investing too aggressively, which might make them uncomfortable for their plans. So retirement for you is going to be different to somebody else. The first bit of work that I do with most clients, after understanding their immediate pressing concerns and pain points, is to ask them, what does retirement really look like for them? What does their ideal day-to-day or life look like? Beyond the first 3 months or 6 months or even the first year, often that plan kind of fizzles into blurriness, and lots of people don't have an idea of what that could look like. So that's why we spend a lot of attention initially to try and help develop a rough idea of what the ideal retirement can look like. Once we have that idea, we can then work out how much it's going to cost, and then we can work backwards and say, well, this is what we've got, this is the way we can use it, and this means to get to that target of how much your ideal retirement is going to cost, we either have too much money or too little money. And if we have too much money, we'll have other problems, potentially like inheritance tax. And we can then push clients to say, well, actually, your ideal life here, it is achievable based on all these statistics and probabilities. Now let's push forward. Can we do more of what you like? Can we go harder and have a better quality of life? And if somebody's on the other side and they don't have quite enough, well, then it's like, well, what can we do to help them get there? Is it tweaking this? Is it saving this? Is it using the pension this way instead of that way? And making some smart choices. And in either scenario, having too much or too little, having this conversation and figuring it out sooner rather than later helps people have that clarity, have confidence, and have a clear plan for their future. That means that when they retire, they are less likely to have problems of losing their social circle or social status even. For decades, people often have job titles, and as they progress throughout their careers, they get promoted and promoted and promoted, and they actually develop a lot of self-esteem and status around their job title. And in the UK particularly, we wake up every day, we go to school for 20ish years and come back home. Then after we finish our education, we wake up every day and go to work for 30 or 40 years and then come back home. And then one day we're retired, we wake up and do what? Like, it can be challenging. So having the foresight and helping people retire isn't just the financials, it's also the social status, the job title. What will you be after you're retired? How will you replace your daily habits of waking up and doing something? Because they say often retirement is like a Saturday. For people that work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, what day do you spend your most money? Well, it's a Saturday. What do you do on a Saturday? You do things, maybe things with the family, you go out shopping. And if you're having that Saturday every day for the rest of your life, sometimes that can get tedious. So finding ways to have something to look forward to and to help people understand that we're retiring to something rather than retiring from something can help shift the mental paradigm and actually lead to a positive transition mentally alongside the financial position of retirement. Now, there are various pensions over the various years. There have been lots of big legislation changes, even recently, but over the last 4 or 5 decades, and that has created lots of different types of pensions. There's SIPs and there's SASs, there's defined benefit pension contribution pensions, there's defined contribution pensions, and with some and all of them, there are various special features. For example, some carry guarantees, some have bonuses, and even those guarantees, there could be various different types. There can be a guaranteed figure at the end of the day. There could be a guaranteed annual amount. There could be guaranteed annual increases, and so on. So it's not always the right decision to transfer and consolidate all of your pensions into a new one. Sometimes it might be worthwhile keeping some pensions where they are, and some of them you could transfer if they're not as good. And that means even though that if you try and transfer them all to one or consolidate them to reduce the paperwork and the stress and the form filling, it actually could be detrimental. So having a bit of time before you transfer and look at retirement to do some analysis and like a little pension MOT can help prevent you losing some potentially highly valuable guarantees. For example, pensions set up in maybe the 80s or 90s had a guaranteed annuity rate. So at retirement, they'd have a high level of income. And then in the early 2000s, annuity rates in the private market were very poor, maybe 2 or 3%. But these locked in pensions with these guarantees were guaranteed annuity rates of maybe 14 or 15%. So it was definitely worthwhile keeping those because they're maybe 12, 13% higher than going to the open market. So it's just worthwhile looking at what you have got because there may be something really, really valuable there. When I've looked at pensions in the past, I've had one client with 2 different or 3 different pension plans. And then I looked at the funds and they're run by 3 different companies. And then you look a level further below that and say, well, what are these companies actually investing in? And it turns out that those 3 different companies are investing in the same fund. But annoyingly, they charge the client different prices for the same underlying holdings. And I don't think that's helpful to them at all. Where pensions are suitable for consolidation, investing in one strategy gives clarity. It can help make sure we're not double pricing. And then also it provides economies of scales on those fund costs. One, because all of your money is in one place. And then also that gives you better buying power to say, well, actually, instead of investing X, I'm now doing 3X with you, and we can get a better price that way. Saving costs is almost as important as investment returns. Often in life, there are only 2 things that are certain, and that's death and taxes. And with that, almost the third one is going to be charges. We know we're going to pay somewhere, and usually you're going to pay for your pension provider and your funds. And even if it's through a workplace pension plan, you're likely already paying those 2 costs. So where possible, we look to minimize those to help therefore leave more in the pot for your future and your retirement. So here's a little demonstration of what I can do, where I'm going to show you a scenario for a couple that are married with 1 child. One of the couple is an employee, the other person is a business owner of his own company, and they want to retire on £70,000 a year and a little bit early. So I'm going to switch across the screen and I'm going to show you my cash flow planning tool. So in my cash flow planning tool, we have this couple who are 53 and 50, and they've got a 14-year-old son. And we are looking at the Apple family. They want to spend £70,000 a year for themselves, and also just for 4 years for university, set aside £15,000 for their son. They currently work, and Mr. Apple is a company owner, and he takes home about £100,000 a year of salary and dividends. Mrs. Apple is an employee, and she receives £35,000 of salary per year. In terms of what they've collated over the years, they have a little bit of ISA savings and some cash savings. They have a home, their main home, which is worth £900,000. They have, I'll skip forward to mortgages, so they've got a smaller mortgage of £350,000. And then in their pensions, we know that the government will give them, if they've done their full national insurance 35 years, of £12,500 a year each, based on today's money. Mrs. Apple has also done well to save £28,000 in her private pension, and Mr. Apple has £125,000 in his private pension also. They have no other financial outgoings or incomings. This is everything they have as a family. When we put that together, their incomes via their employment now and their pensions later, to try and get to their target of £70,000 a year, we can see where each blue bar represents 1 tax year from now in 2026 all the way till age 100 on this side, that there is money coming in and out. The black line across the top represents the £70,000 a year that they want to spend, plus the £15,000 for education costs, plus taxes, and plus inflation every year. So we can see that the same amount goes up and up and up because we're factoring in for inflation. We can see that the Apples are working now all the way until Mr. Apple turns 65. And at that point, age 65, they both stop working. Blue is money coming in, red is shortfall, not enough money. So quickly we can see that Mr. and Mrs. Apple, if they retire on £70,000 a year, when Mr. Apple is 65, they start to run out of money when Mr. Apple is 89 years old. So £70,000 is unaffordable, but what can we do about it? Well, we know Mr. Apple is a business owner, so he has a couple of different options. One, he could save a bit more every year through to his retirement. He could perhaps change his investment strategy to be a bit more aggressive. Or the one that I'm going to demonstrate here is, well, there might be some value in that business. So right now, he's 53. And if we say, well, by the time you're 65, on your 65th birthday, let's sell your business. And so, well, how much do we need to sell it for to remove the red for the rest of time until age 100? So we'll let the software say, well, at age 65, how much as a lump sum do we need from selling the business? So we'll let the system calculate, and it says, well, at that age, at age 65, in 12 years' time, Mr. Apple needs £258,000, £203 to remove all of the red until their age 100. So that gives him plenty of time to focus on the business, get some values, tweak the business, and be a bit more strategic about how he's growing it, and then even potentially look for some buyers. Alternatively, with the planning software we have, is say, well, okay, this is our scenario for £70,000 a year. If I copy and paste this plan, but change the outgoings to £60,000 a year, what difference would that make? So what I do is I copy and paste, and I will make one tweak, and that is changing the £70,000 a year target to £60,000 a year target, and nothing else. And on that basis, we can see, well, actually, there's no red even at age 100. And that means this plan, this way that where they currently are now, is sustainable, it's built for the long term, and it has some flexibility in there also. So I can give Mr. and Mrs. Apple instantly some confidence, say, we are on track. What you've done has been fantastic. And without selling the business, without downsizing, without changing your investments, as you are, you can both retire when Mr. Apple is 65 and spend £60,000 a year net after tax forever. And that gave them some instant confidence and reassurance. And they say, well, actually, we know where we are now, but let's see. If we wanted to get from £70,000 a year, let me compare both charts together. So the top one is spending £60,000, bottom one is spending £70,000 a year. Let's go and sell that business. And they can do it if they want to, if there's a market for the business. If not, they know where they're going. Their baseline is at least £60,000 a year. And if they want to go 70, it's definitely possible for them, particularly because they started early, they've got different options, and they've got time to make it work. So that's how that can be done. That can give them that clarity and confidence within a very short period of time. And at the end of the meeting, Mr. and Mrs. Apple were very happy. They can see, actually, we know we're good. We know we can work a bit harder if we want to. And then they had to go away and think about it and say, well, actually, do we want 70,000 or are we happy? But that's the power. I'm giving them the choice. They now have the options to choose where they want to be and how they want to work. Right, so back to the slides, and let's keep on going. We've looked at scenario 1 and 2. So we can look at the ways to plan the retirement. And that is what I've demonstrated so far in terms of I have to help you ask the right questions at the beginning of your planning. We then have to understand what you've got, what it means, and how it can work for you. And that's how we do the cash flow plan, as we've just looked at now. And the third step then is, well, let's make it into action. Let's put the plan down together. Let's see what are our priorities. Let's see how much it's going to cost, and then start making action points and changes to help us get closer towards those targets. And then finally, step 4 is, well, once we've done it, well, life happens. Stuff hits the fan. Like, we have to move and adapt and tweak. And that's where keeping things on track is arguably almost as important as asking the right questions up front. Most pensions now, most options are flexible. They can be tweaked. Fund changes within the right place shouldn't be at additional costs or charges. Tax is going to change, we know that, and that's where having somebody in your corner to help you be proactive with tax planning across different tax wrappers is valuable, and almost as valuable as where we're investing. So it's the whole picture, and these are 4 important considerations for retirement planning. The most important part, as I'm going to say again, is starting the life, not the numbers. With the life planning bit first, you know what intrinsically motivates you to be happy. There's no point being the richest person in the graveyard. So saving all your money and just having more zeros, investing really aggressively for the sake of it, isn't always right for everybody. Because that can cause a lot of stress and necessary pain and hardship where it doesn't need to. If Mr. and Mrs. Apple only needed 258,000, there's no point trying to grow the business to be worth 1 million or 2 million. It would be too much effort for them, and it would probably cause them more stress than happiness. So asking the right questions via some very specific questions that I've developed over the years and refined, together with some activities, can help really start shaping and being creative at the start. Because financial planning is both science and art. It's a collaboration where the numbers and the tax, that's all the science bit, but actually designing and creating and living and building the ideal life, well, that's very much creative. And that's where we should start. I do not believe in spreadsheets, and I do not give anybody 100-page reports because they are useless. Once we've made them, life happens and stuff comes out of date, and that can be instantly. So having software being fluid and flexible helps adjust. And a lot of my clients, we do the initial work up front, and then we'll have a call. We'll say, Chris, I want to buy a car. Chris, can I downsize? Chris, should I upsize? And we'll just go through the numbers and plans that we go yes or no. Or even actually, well, yes, we can, but let's do this first, or let's do it this way. And we be strategic in our decisions, and we make them from knowledge base, so they're informed decisions, not doing anything off a whim or gut reaction. So having the whole picture, holistic financial planning, is the message from today. It isn't just about the pension here, it's how it ties in with the type of pensions you've got, any other assets you may have, putting it into your context of your ideal life and plan together with your cash flow. Because not all money is accessible now. Some pensions are from 55, in the future going to be 57 years of age. State pension might come in at 66 for you, or 67 or 68. So it's about the timing and the cash flow. And that's why we use cash flow planning software to help map the ideal life and then build your retirement. So here's one exercise that I like to do with clients quite early on to help them build their ideal life. So this is my takeaway for you today, or one of my takeaways for you today, where I would ask you to prepare your pen and paper, because I'm going to ask you to draw something for me. So I'm going to give you a scenario, and then I'll give you 30 seconds to draw when I indicate. So the scenario is that you are at home one weekday afternoon. You receive a call from a private number. You're suspicious, but you take the call and you answer it. You build some rapport with the caller and eventually invite them round for afternoon tea on Saturday. I'm going to fast forward now to Saturday. It's the time you agreed with the caller. You do not have a camera ring type doorbell, and your doorbell rings. So you go to the door because you know it's the time you agreed with the caller. You open the door and you see money for the first time. Please draw what you see. You have 60 seconds. And once you've drawn, feel free to pop a description of your drawing in the comment section for me. Over to you. Okay, whilst you keep drawing and hopefully add your comments of your drawings in the comments box, I'll keep on going for now. And then at the end, I'll try and explain what different types of these drawings can mean for you, your money habits based on your history with money and this exercise. Okay, so now we've started building the ideal life plan. We have built a cash flow plan because we reviewed your pensions and have done a pension or financial MOT on what you have. And that will look at the guarantees, or look at the charges, or look at the performance and any special tax or special features. We then start putting things into action. We might keep some of the pensions, we might fill in some paperwork to transfer some of the pensions, but at least we know what everything's for. We can then maybe look at different funds, we can look at different options, and build the investment strategy to go alongside the plan that we have. Putting the mechanics in place is the way to actually make things happen. We've done the work, we've done the hard work on building forward, and now it's time to actually do the doing. And once we've made that, we then go to making sure we're adaptable and flexible. And not just that, when life happens and things change, and that could be the Chancellor giving us a budget and raising taxes or reducing taxes or changing allowances, or we've reached our goal because we've got our investments to the point we need to be, we can reduce the risk and change investments. It's then about reviewing, refining, and repeating the strategy and the planning to make sure that we don't drift away from our target, which can happen over time. Particularly as the average retirement is for 3 decades, 30 years. If we just did it once when you're in your 50s or 60s and left it alone, it will drift a long way by the time you're 3 years into your retirement. So keeping on track and doing small tweaks along the journey will help keep your money aligned to your life. At Designer Wealth, I have my trademark Designer Wealth algorithm, where the process we've just spoken about today is essentially step 1 is discovery, where we learn about you and your plan, your ideal life. Step 2 is designing that ideal life against your cash flow plan after we've done our financial review. Step 3 is then implementing that plan via deploying the strategy, fund changes, switches, consolidation, perhaps even opening new investments or looking at everything as the whole picture. And then finally, we develop the plan as the years progress through our ongoing tweaks and changes and in line with life, tax, budgets changes, and preference. So before I go and respond to the comment in the chat, I'm going to give you your second takeaway for today, which is a free tool, which is how long should your pension last. So if you take your phone camera and hover over the QR code on screen, there is a simple calculator to help stress test your current retirement plan. So it's a free tool. Just take your camera, click on the link, and have a go at that at your own pace in your own time. So let me open the chat and have a look at the first drawing. So the description that we've given is a lioness. Now that's interesting because not everyone associates money as the character that we open the door to a animal. Often what I receive in terms of images, and there's no right or wrong answer, is maybe a picture of a human type character, where it's more male or female dominated. So we've got a lioness here for this comment. So that would perhaps mean that in this person's early teenage years, their more dominant guardian with money perhaps could have been the more feminine character in the household. And that can help me understand now where their finances are going to go for them and how to help them make decisions. Secondly, that on drawings we can see often a face in there, and it might be a smiley face or a frowny face. And a smiley face might mean that during childhood and adolescence, that the individual drawing not necessarily had everything and had a lavish lifestyle, but perhaps just didn't go without. And conversely, if there was a frowny face to it, it might mean that the individual maybe struggled a little bit or had struggles in the family. And that can be seen as those habits formed around those ages transform into now this person and an adult life. I had a meeting once with a couple who really need to save for themselves, but they were really concerned about their adult children. And they just wanted to make sure they had enough. So I was like, let me do this exercise with them They sat down in front of me. I asked them not to confer and do this activity privately. They both did, and they both then asked them to show each other the drawings, and they both draw pretty much the same thing, which was a smiley face. I explained what that could mean, and they were like, yeah, that makes sense. That was what it was for us in our childhoods, respectively. I then said, well, if your daughters were in this meeting today, what do you think they would draw? And both the parents, the people in front of me, they turned to each other and said, they smiled and said, basically the same thing. And that kind of helped them slowly over time unlock their challenges of saving for their children to help them save for themselves, because these guys in their late 50s really need to update their savings, help their retirement plans, and this helped them allow them to do that. So yeah, just little ideas that we can help them progress. And it's looking at money habits, money history, and then allowing that to kind of break free and allow them to build and live that ideal life. Money is a tool, and I think we should use it to live our best life, not just keep growing it for the sake of it. So yeah, here's your free tool for the pension. How long should it last? And if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to respond. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and hope you have a good day. Thank you.